talk about one of my favorite American indie perfume houses, and that is the house of Gallagher fragrances. So I'm basically going to do sort of a house overview of the majority of scents that Daniel Gallagher has available currently from his particular fragrance house, but also I wanted to talk about his new fragrance house that he's creating, or he has created in collaboration with his wife, which is called Pearlescent Parfums. So we're going to talk about both of those today. The first, like the major chunk of the video, will be the house overview, talking about my thoughts on, let's see here, I think 7 different Gallagher fragrances. And then at the end, I'll talk about the 2 fragrances that have just been released from his new company called Pearlescent Parfums. So I currently own 3 full bottles of fragrances from Gallagher Fragrances, and the first one that I purchased was Rosé All Dae, and then after that I purchased Wicked Good, which is the most expensive that he offers, which is the main reason why I didn't purchase it at first, and also why I only have it in a 30 ml. And then more recently I purchased Behold Patchouli, which I really like, and I really had to jump on it when I found out that he was getting rid of these 30 milliliter bottles. I really like this size because my collection's quite large, but he is not able to get these just because of the supply chain currently. I think there are a few fragrances that still have maybe some 30 mils available, but for the most part, all you're gonna see on his site right now are these 100 ml size bottles. And the 100 mils, most of them are like $155 to $165 normally. Occasionally he does coupon discounts, like maybe 10% off or something. But the Wicked Good, which I mentioned is the most expensive, I think that one's close to $250. So that one is quite pricey for the 100 mils, not this size. This was cheaper, which is why I got this one. Anyway, so that just kind of gives you a quick rundown of the pricing and everything, but let's go ahead and get into all the fragrances here. The 2 that I think that I am missing, and I'm honestly not sure if I've smelled or not, I can't remember, are Bergamust and Amongst Waves. Those are the 2 that I think you can currently buy on his site that I don't have samples of or full bottles of. Let's go ahead and start with the samples though, and let's start off with the brand new one. So this one, I purchased this sample not too long ago because it was just released maybe, I don't know, like a month or 2 ago. This is called Overt, and I think the name kind of gives you a hint that this is going to be a green fragrance. So let me just spray this real quick. By the way, all of these except for Wicked Good are Eau de Parfum concentration. Wicked Good is only an Eau de Toilette because he uses a very expensive vanilla in there. But yeah, anyway, so let's get back to Overt. This is really nice. I quite like this fragrance. I'm not huge into green fragrances, but this one I can get along with. So in the opening, you get this blast of citrus. I definitely pick up bergamot, but I think also lemon. There could be other citrus as well, or maybe I'm not right, but I'm pretty sure there's bergamot and lemon in here. Actually, I think there might be an orange sort of citrus in here as well, the more I smell this. So I kind of pick up right away sort of like a green bergamot with some lemon, like a really zesty lemon that pops. It's like really bright. But now that I'm smelling a little bit more, I think that there might be orange in here as well. There's probably just a bunch of different citruses, but that's kind of what I can pick out. Now, when I wore this, I would say it performed fairly well for a citrus fragrance. I don't remember exactly how many hours, but I should say for a citrus green fragrance, it's predominantly green in the dry down, but the opening's very citrusy. I would say, I think I got at least 6 hours and maybe more than that, if I remember correctly. But this one, it has a little bit of a spiciness to it, just a tiny bit. I think there's, in the dry down, some vetiver in here, which kind of, goes well with a green fragrance. There's a little bit of, I think, ambergris in this because it does have a slight sort of oceanic quality to it, even though overall as a whole, to me, this is a green citrusy fragrance. So it has like some woody nuances, some spicy nuances, some, like I said, sort of ocean, like sea, salty kind of like nuances to it. But in general, mostly I get sort of green citrus. I really like this one. I do think overall Overt might lean the tiniest bit masculine. In general, like all of his fragrances are marketed as unisex. And I would say that most of them, I think, pretty well are, but this one maybe, and there's been a few others I've tried that I'll mention that lean a little bit masculine. So anyway, that's the newest one called Overt. If you're looking for like a really well-performing citrusy green fragrance for the summertime, because we still have quite a bit of summer left, then you might want to check this one out. Next up is one called Pearfecto, and I really like the name of this one. I first tried this, ooh, gosh, maybe I first tried it pretty much, I think, when it came out, or very close to it. It was a while ago, but this is not like a super old fragrance in his catalog. I'm not exactly sure how long it's been around, but I really like this one. When I first tried it, I remember thinking this one also leaned a little bit masculine, but now, and I know that my tastes have evolved and my collection has become increasingly more like unisex / like even some masculine marketed fragrances nowadays. So perhaps it's just a shift in my tastes and what I perceive because I've tried more and more. But now I think it's pretty perfectly unisex, especially because this is a very fruity fragrance. So in the opening, I get a lot of, there's I think a melon note in here, and that's what it smells like actually right at first, even more than pear. But I quickly start to pick up on the pear also. There's probably, again, lots of other fruits and things like that. It sort of does smell a little bit like a combination of many different fruits. I think there's probably citrus in here as well, but mostly melon and pear are what stands out to me in terms of like fruits I can kind of recognize. Now there is something in here that is slightly green, and I don't know if it's coming from the fruit, like maybe like a green pear, or if it's something maybe like some sort of green note in here, like something leafy or something like that. But there is a little bit of a greenness to this. However, I would say also, and I don't think there's anything in here, I don't think there's a tea note in here, but it kind of gives me a tea vibe. So something in here sort of has this, I don't know, fruity tea vibe to it. I'm not sure why, but I kind of pick that up. So you have this like very fruity combination with a little bit of tea, a little bit of like a greenness to it, and then some woods is what I would say I would describe this as. I do think there probably is a touch of patchouli in here, but it's very light. And overall, I think that this is a really unique fragrance. I don't know that I've smelled anything that smells just like Pearfecto. This is definitely one that I've debated purchasing in the past because I do quite enjoy it, and it is unique. So it would add something to my collection that I don't already have. Anyway, that's Pearfecto. It's been a while since I've tested this, like given it a full wear test, so I can't really remark about the longevity. However, I will say in general, I've never had any complaints about Gallagher fragrances. Like they kind of go from like moderate to like beast. So nothing that I've ever worn from Daniel Gallagher has not performed well. It's just a matter of how well it performs. All right, next up is one called Fineapple. And again, I just really like his names of his fragrances. So this one is obviously going to have pineapple, but if I remember correctly, it also has apple, like both apple and pineapple. So the name Fineapple works well here. Yeah, so there's actually almost like this sort of bubblegummy type of feel that I get when I first smell this. I definitely pick up on the probably apple more than pineapple in the opening. But I would say that there's something in here that reminds me of like a pink bubblegum. Now, it's probably a floral. If I were to guess, sometimes certain florals can go a little bubblegummy. But yeah, I kind of pick that up in the opening. There is a little bit of, I would guess, a green apple is what it smells like to me. But in the opening, I don't get a ton of what I would detect as pineapple. Now, there is a little bit of a woodiness to this one. And I would say that there is, I don't know if it's musk or I think it might actually be ambrette that's in here. But there's kind of, I don't know. I can't decide which one it is. So ambrette is a note that I really, really enjoy, and it kind of is similar to musks in a way, and that it can add like the tiny, it's not like overly, but like the tiniest bit of like dirtiness to a fragrance that just makes it more interesting to me. I think it sits really, at least on my skin, ambrette sits really nicely. There's just a ton of fragrances that I love that have ambrette in them, and I don't know, it's kind of like just meshes well with my personal skin chemistry. But Yeah, I think that this is another really great fruity option, but it does have a bubble gumminess to it. And again, I'm sure that's probably a floral that's in here that's doing that. Now, I will say as this dries down, the pineapple comes out more and more. And it definitely doesn't smell like a lot of the fragrances that might come to mind when you think of pineapple, because this is on the more fruity side of things. I would say it's like a fruity floral woody fragrance that stays very, very unisex. Like this doesn't go feminine at all to me, but it also doesn't go overly masculine. I think anyone can pull this off if you like these style of notes. Personally, I like apple a lot, but I'm not a huge fan of pineapple in fragrances. For example, I'm not a huge fan of Aventus. Shock, I know. But yeah, so this one I like, but I don't love because that pineapple does really start to come out quite a bit as it dries down. Let's go ahead and talk about the ones that I've already purchased full bottles of because I love that much. Let's start with the newest bottle to my collection. This is Behold Patchouli. And on the bottles, it actually tells you the notes. So this one says it has orange citruses, frankincense, chocolate patchouli, honeyed amber, and musk. So that will kind of give you an idea there, but I'll go ahead and give it a smell again and tell you what I pick up for the most part. Now, Behold Patchouli, I first tried thanks to my friend Hillary over at the Burrow Nerdy Fragrance Reviews. She purchased a bottle kind of right away and really enjoyed it, and she sent me a sample, and I really liked this right away as well, but I didn't buy it for quite some time. And then, like I said, when I found out that he was getting rid of the 30 ml bottles, I just went ahead and picked up one because I'd rather have a smaller size than the 100 mils, especially because I don't reach for patchouli fragrances a lot. However, if you're not really into patchouli, I think you might still like this if you like chocolate, because here, it does say that chocolate is a note, but it might just be the type of patchouli he's using that gives it that chocolatey accord. I'm not sure. Maybe he also used something else that gives a chocolate sort of vibe to it. But to me, this is a very chocolatey patchouli. I definitely get orange in here. I don't know if there's other citrus besides that, but I definitely get like an orange chocolatey thing. And I get the honey. I don't think I get a ton of musk. I think the tiniest bit, like as I smell it right at the end, as I like stop sniffing, I can kind of pick up maybe some of the musk. I also don't get like huge amounts of incense. Like really to me, the chocolatey patchouli is the most dominant sort of smell that you'll get here, but I can detect incense in here. So, you know, like be aware of that. I know some people love incense and some people really dislike it. So depending on what you like, you may or may not like this fragrance, but I personally love it. And I will say that you still can tell it's patchouli that's in here, even though it's a chocolatey patchouli, because it does have a little bit of that sort of greenness, but it's not dirty at all to me. At least in my opinion, this doesn't smell dirty at all. It's almost like verging on like a patchouli gourmand in many ways because of that chocolatiness and the orange in here. The orange sticks around for quite a while, but not the whole time, at least on my skin. It eventually kind of fades and it mostly becomes that chocolatey patchouli, like I said. A little bit of incense, maybe the tiniest bit of musk, and some sweetness from the honey for sure. Although this is not a super sweet scent. And again, I think this one's dead unisex, so I don't think this leans one way or the other. I think anybody who enjoys this sort of scent profile will be able to wear this and enjoy it really, really well. Performs well. Like I said, I haven't had any performance issues from any Gallagher fragrances whatsoever, even the more citrusy ones. But this definitely lasts for quite some time. And as I alluded to, I'm not a huge lover of patchouli. It's grown on me over time, but still not one of my favorite notes. However, this particular patchouli scent is one of my favorites that features that note. Next, let's talk about this big boy right here. This is Rosé All Dae. And this fragrance was my introduction to Gallagher. And as soon as I smelled it, I was like, I need this. This is, in my opinion, a beast. I remember when I first tested this, I sprayed it in this room. And the next day from like the tester strip, I could still smell it lingering in the air in this office. So definitely lasts, definitely projects. I just think this is such an amazing scent. Now, let me read you the notes that are on here real quick. So it says there's apple crisp. You definitely get a lot of that. It says there's plum. You definitely get that too. Dark rose. I definitely picked that up too. Brown sugar. Yes. Tonka. Yes. Stainless steel. Yes. you get all of these things. And the stainless steel is what I think puts people off of this fragrance sometimes, because it does have that sort of metallic note in here. Like it's like you can definitely tell that there's something in here giving it a metallic vibe, but I quite enjoy it. Now, overall, I think this is a really great fall scent because there is a lot of that sort of apple crisp brown sugar thing going on, but the metallic note gives it a little bit of lift. So I personally prefer wearing it in the fall over the winter. You can wear it all year round if you want. You can wear it in the summer if you want. Although I will say, if you wear it in the summer and it's really hot, you need to go easy on the trigger because you'll probably give yourself like a headache. I feel like it would just, I've never tried it, but I imagine that if you oversprayed this in the summer, you will not have a good time, even though the scent is amazing. So yeah, I just think this is really, really unique. Definitely has like this honeyed sweetness. I assume that's from the brown sugar accord that's in here. But wow, I just find this so unique and interesting and definitely love wearing this. Like I said, this one for sure, I can tell you I've worn it enough that you might be able to tell. I've decanted some of this, but in general, I've worn this enough to really know how it performs and it lasts. I don't have any problem. If you've had a different experience, leave comments down below so people can see, but this on me is like one of the only fragrances that I own that is beast mode and I still enjoy, because a lot of them just become too much. But this, I think, because it is so unique and because it's in a like a gourmand sort of style that I really enjoy, I personally adore this fragrance. So that's Rose All Dae. And I think, again, this is very unisex. This one, I think some people might consider leaning slightly more feminine, but honestly, like I don't see anything about this that seems like feminine or masculine. It's like fruit, sugar, and stainless steel. So yeah, I personally think it's dead center unisex again. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely check this one out. Oh, by the way, he does, well, obviously he has samples because I showed you those earlier. But I think he does have a full sample set that you can get from his website. I don't remember the price of it, but you can do that, or you can buy individual samples, which I really like because you're not forced to blind buy anything. All right, so the last fragrance that I have from Gallagher Fragrances before we switch over to talk about his new line called Pearlescent Parfums is my favorite one, and it's called Wicked Good. And I always have to kind of chuckle because this reminds me of a friend I had back in the day who was from Boston, and he said wicked good all the time. But anyway, if you, like me, are a lover of vanilla, you need to check this out. If you're a lover of chocolate, you need to check this out. If you're a lover of tonka, you need to check this out. So those are the only 3 notes or accords that are in here. Now, I imagine there's probably something else going on, but it's just absolutely amazing. So the Madagascar vanilla that he uses in here is very expensive, which is why this is his most expensive fragrance. And it's also in eau de toilette concentration, just as a reminder. And it'll even tell you on the back here, it's eau de toilette. It's so good though. I will say that the chocolate doesn't hang around the whole wear. On me and the opening, I get lots of the chocolate. I get everything right away. It's just kind of a matter of it becoming a little bit less chocolatey and more like vanillic as it dries down. Now, overall, like based on the notes, you can see this is not a super complex fragrance. However, it doesn't really smell like a whole lot I have in my collection. And I'm not sure why that is, because I definitely have other chocolatey fragrances. I have, as you probably know if you've watched my videos before, I have a crap ton of vanilla fragrances. I have quite a few tonka fragrances as well. But this particular like combination or ratio that he's used, oh, it's so good. It's just a little bit different from everything else that I have. And so I definitely appreciate having this in my collection. I would say that this does give me sort of baking vibes, because I think that the chocolate, it's not bitter at all, but it's like a little bit, it's a little bit more towards a bitter chocolate than it is towards like a milk chocolate, at least in my opinion. And the vanilla, well, it's Madagascar vanilla. It is the type of vanilla that you would actually eat and cook with. And so that vanilla, that's probably why this stands out a bit, because like real like high quality vanilla that is used in fragrances is more complex because it's been aged. It just has a lot of nuances on its own. So I think that's why this one kind of stands out to me. And then the tonka sort of gives it like this slight maybe like a little bit of a powderiness to it that I really enjoy. But again, this one is my favorite, even though it's not overly complex. So this is called Wicked Good. And again, if you're a lover of these notes, you should get a sample and check this out. All right, now we're gonna talk about two brand new fragrances, like brand new. These come from the new house that Daniel Gallagher created with his wife. I think her name was Mindy. And it's called Pearlescent Parfums. So here are the two fragrances. Now I will tell you, these two were sent to me. Everything else I purchased, like all of the Gallagher fragrances, including like some of the samples even, I purchased. Some of the samples I think came free with my orders. But in general, everything up to this point I paid for. These two though surprised me. I had no clue this was coming. And then all of a sudden this box showed up and I'm like, what in the heck is Pearlescent Parfums? And I opened it up and lo and behold, there's this lovely note in there from Daniel and his wife, kind of introducing the house. And basically the idea behind it is that Pearlescent Parfums will be a more, still unisex, but maybe slightly more feminine leaning unisex line because Daniel's wife always thought that the fragrances in the Gallagher fragrances catalog were a little bit more masculine leaning. Again, I personally think most of them are dead center unisex with the exclusion of a couple that I've tried that seem a little bit more masculine. I don't think there's anything though from Gallagher fragrances that I personally feel like goes too far on the masculine side for me to not want to wear. Either way though, definitely there are many people who would prefer something a little bit maybe more on the feminine side of unisex. And so that's what we have here. So the two fragrances that they've come out with first are called Baklava and Aquarose. And these are 60 milliliter bottles. So this is, again, the only size that they currently offer. And these are, I believe, $179. And they do, again, offer samples on their site. I think you can buy a pack of both of them or you can buy them individually. The bottles are pretty interesting looking. So they have this like faux marble top that you can see there. And then on the sides, there's like this sort of pattern imprinted on there. So it's like textured. And then of course you have like this opaque white glass with the black label there and the names are embossed. So it's a really high quality presentation here, which I like. Although I also really like this. I don't have any problem with that either. But anyway, the first one I want to talk about is Baklava. Now I will say right up front, this one was not what I expected with the name Baklava. Now, both of these I have tested on skin a couple times. And again, I would say these were more like moderate longevity and projection, but still absolutely no complaints. They lasted just like you would expect anything from Daniel Gallagher to last. Now, Baklava, it has sort of an homage to Baklava, but it does not smell like Baklava straight to me. There is a nuttiness in here. So there's definitely a nuttiness like you would get. So Baklava is like what? Almond, is it pistachio sometimes in there? I don't remember. But also I get some sort of like a cherry kind of thing going on. A little bit of the honey that would be in Baklava or that sweetness. But I don't know, there's also something in here. There's like something a little bit floral in here. And there's like maybe citrus in here, which is, you know, not in Baklava. Now, it's been a long time since I've made baklava or ate baklava, so I can't tell you for sure that this doesn't smell exactly like baklava, but it doesn't smell exactly like baklava. I've smelled it enough in the past that this does not smell exactly like it to me. It's like there's that with something else. Now, I do think there was some other dessert, like olive cake, loaf. No, olive loaf is not right. Cake? Is there an olive cake? There was some other dessert that I guess inspired this one. I've never had such a dessert, so I don't know what that smells like, but it definitely doesn't smell like straight baklava, I guess is just my point here. Now, I will say that I don't love this fragrance. I don't think it's overly sweet, and I do think that a man could pull it off, but in general, I do think this one does lean maybe slightly more on the feminine side. Yeah, this one is not for me. I don't dislike it, but I don't love it. I think though that if you do tend to like slightly more feminine fragrances than I do, that you might want to check this out because it definitely has a gourmand quality, but it's not straight gourmand. And like I said, it leans a little bit more feminine than the stuff from Gallagher. All right, the second fragrance in the line is this one here called Aquarose. And at first, I wasn't sure that I was going to like this, but I actually prefer this one over Baklava, just as a spoiler here. So right away, this is sort of to me, a little bit of a soapy, watery rose. There's definitely some sort of a sea vibe to it. So it's called Aquarose, and I get that. It's probably ambergris that's in here. Because it has like almost a little bit of a salty touch to it. I would say there's some musk in here, but like a white style musk, like nothing dirty. And I get like a woodiness to it. Now in the opening, I also get some like citrus and maybe like additional florals, like I would guess white florals maybe. But I would say that that rose stands out the most throughout the whole wearing. I quite like this though, and it does last really well. I had, again, no issues with performance on this one. I would say if you're like me and you're a little sensitive to white florals, don't overspray this because when I first put this on, I thought it did not, but I thought it might give me a headache because in that opening there were what I believe is white florals in here. As it dried down, that kind of went away a bit and it didn't bother me. So I didn't end up getting a headache, but if you are a person like me, because I know there are some of you who watch my channel who also often get headaches from white florals, I would say definitely sample this. Do not blind buy it. But, you know, kind of maybe don't spray too much at first just to kind of make sure. I really ended up enjoying this. I quite like it, but it's very floral. Very floral. A little bit like I said, a little bit oceanic with like a salty vibe and a little bit woody, I would say, in the dry down especially. Overall, like I said, this is my favorite. Now, like I said, I don't dislike Baklava. It's just different. It's unique, and it's not what I expected. And so I guess maybe that's part of it too, is like my presumption about it or my expectations maybe affect my opinion. But I think that they're both really interesting scents. They're very unique. I don't own anything that smells like either of these. And like I said, they both lasted a very acceptable amount of time. Not maybe as beast mode as a few of the Gallagher fragrances can be, but these definitely are not fleeting scents. They'll stick around for quite some time. All right, so those are my thoughts on the house of Gallagher fragrances, as well as his new line called Pearlescent Parfums. Out of everything, my favorite is still Wicked Good, and then Rosé All Dae, and then Behold Patchouli. Like, I just love those three fragrances especially. But as a whole, hopefully this gives you a good feel for the house. I definitely recommend sampling these because some of them are very potent, and if you don't like them, then it's going to be difficult to deal with because they're very potent. So I highly recommend sampling and not blind buying, but I do think that there are some great fragrances available from Daniel Gallagher. And honestly, I think he's getting better as he goes. Like these two, which came out, I guess, more recently. So did Pearfecto and Overt. Overt's great too. I really like that one. Maybe I should get Overt. Now that I'm thinking about it. I really like Overt too. Oh man, I don't know. Pearfecto, Overt, probably one of those, if not both, I'll eventually get. But I do think he's getting better, which makes sense. Like, right, he has more experience, but the fragrances are just really great, some of these lately. So definitely check out both of these houses depending on like what sounds most interesting to you. I'll leave links down below. Those are not sponsored or anything. And in fact, like literally when I was sent these, like I had no clue they were coming and there was absolutely nothing in his letter about reviewing them. So I could have just never spoke about them ever and that would have been perfectly fine. So there was no expectations from Daniel for me to talk about this, but I wanted to do a house overview for Gallagher fragrances for a long time anyway, and it just kind of worked out that these showed up recently. So I included them too. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. If so, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell, whichever side it's on, I don't remember. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.